At 1 years old, I had my first sip of alcohol. And from there, the age of 13, was a bartender. I got attracted to business and was quite well at that. And I used my party and crazy lifestyle of boozing to build my businesses and my network. In 2016, sold one of my businesses for seven figures. And in the meantime, leaving behind a shambled marriage, forgetting my kids, and getting consumed in that booze lifestyle of building my business. And I just 7 years ago kind of got hit in the face of another failing marriage and losing my kids. Something had to change. I went to rehab, a 10-day one. I was going in there to save my marriage and do it for my kids and do it for my business. And in like 3 days, it just something hit me. But it was like, man, if I am not right, nothing will ever be right. I need to do this for me.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about going from addiction to empowerment. I'm delighted to welcome Ian Fee. Ian is a successful author, entrepreneur, and the creator of Make It Great. You can reach Ian at his website, makeitgreat.me, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Ian. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, very nice to meet you.
I am delighted to be able to have this conversation. And you have such an amazing story as you're working through your own journey from addiction to empowerment. And you started drinking as a toddler. So can we hear your story?
Yeah, I've been sober 7 years now, just rolling past 7 years. And at 1 years old, I had my first sip of alcohol, Coors Light in beautiful Bellingham. And from there, became a pretty established high school athlete at the age of 13, was a bartender. Despite all the alcohol surrounding me and the abuse, I got attracted to business and was quite well at that. And I used my party and crazy lifestyle of boozing to build my businesses and my network. In 2016, sold one of my businesses for seven figures. And in the meantime, leaving behind a shambled marriage, forgetting my kids, and getting consumed in that booze lifestyle of building my business. And I just 7 years ago kind of got hit in the face of another failing marriage and losing my kids. Something had to change.
Wow. How do you be a bartender at 13? You're not even supposed to be in a bar when you're 13.
Well, I grew up in Southern California in a little place called the Salton Sea, and the population was, less than 1,500 people. My graduating class was 17 kids, very, very small. And there was other drugs going on in high school. Really didn't do a whole lot of booze in high school. But my parents, were they were very social drinkers. And they would always have potlucks and parties. So I thought it would be a great idea to figure out how to make some extra money. And I would bartend for all of them. And I would just make drinks. And they thought I was the cutest little 13-year-old in a little bow tie. I'd dress up. I dressed to the nines and work to the party and work the room. And I was really good at it, at pushing booze. And I was constantly around it. And I was like, wow, this is, I'm a big believer in your domestication of kind of how you were brought up. Like I said, at 1 year old, I had my first sip of beer and then got kicked out of a Shakey's Pizza when I was 9 years old for sipping the foam off the top of my dad's beer. So I was constantly around booze. When I was 13, I was serving all my friends' parties and be like, oh, is Ian going to be around and be serving us some cocktails? And yeah, I could pretty much mix up any drink at the age of 13 for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you know, it's surprising to me that you didn't have these negative effects sooner when it was around all the time. It sounds like you held it together really well. You're an athlete. You were able to not get addicted at a super young age, even though it was constantly available. Is that right? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, it just never really was a thing for me until when I got out of high school. I sip on a beer and it was like, no big deal, even though I was around it a lot. And then kind of when I broke free on my own, then it was like, okay, I don't have to worry about everybody else. I can worry about me, and let's start consuming beverages on me instead of serving everybody.
Hmm. Fascinating. Okay. Well, I'm impressed that you were able to hold it together so well. And you were able to use it as that tool, like you were the cutest little 13-year-old serving up drinks, and you were still able to use that in your business, being able to use it as a tool. At what point did it work against you rather than for you?
And I look at a lot of businesses and watch, I travel a lot and I'm in different cities all the time. And people can say, oh, it's one business drinks more than the other. I disagree with that 1,000%. I think every business has its form of a lot of alcohol consumption around it. If people are out. This convention I was just at, after hours, after the banquet, everybody goes to the bar. It's kind of like the center thing to do. And um, for me at 13, it was very social, right? So I learned to interact with people. I wasn't afraid to talk to people. Um, and as my business grew, I wasn't afraid to talk to people. And it'd be like, hey, you want to go out for lunch? Lunch would turn into a martini lunch. And I would know my environment. Most people that I do business with are drinkers. So a martini lunch wasn't abnormal. And then another client would roll into, hey, let's go to dinner at a fancy steak restaurant and have 2 bottles of wine. And that was like rinse and repeat for years and years and years. I was never a closet drinker or had the, water bottle filled with vodka. I wouldn't drink by myself. I thought that was boring. I could get a party together like no other. In 10 minutes, I could have a house full of 26 people and a barbecue going and a football game on and everybody just drinking beer and wine and cocktails and having a ball while the kids are upstairs with a pizza.
It's amazing. So I'm still not hearing where anything went south. It just seems like you're on top of it, you're on top of it, you're on top of it.
And South, it wore on my ex-wife and my kids. In my book, I had my kids write stories. They're 2 years apart and they're two different lifestyles. My son was like, oh yeah, it was fun. We always had the kids over and we were partying and in the barbecue and in the hot tub, we're watching sports. And then my daughter is like, I didn't know what kind of dad I was going to get. Was he happy? Was he sad? Was he mad? Was he angry? And it was constantly loud. My daughter would text me, be like, hey, can you turn the music down? I'm trying to study. So even though two kids growing up in the same households, two different scenarios that they both feel from that for sure. And the big thing was my wife just kind of had enough of my drunken shenanigans and be like, oh my gosh, we're having 12 people over. Okay, I'll get the house ready and you're going to stop at the store and get stuff. And I went to, in 2017 in October, went to rehab up here in Seattle, a 10-day one called Schick Shadle. It's it was called aversion therapy. So they actually make you swish booze around in your mouth and make you get sick. And it's a pretty intense 10-day deal. So your aversion, like sometimes the smell of booze or even me kind of telling the story, sometimes my aversion's so high, my mouth still waters that my aversion is that high of booze. Like it's like touching the stove. After a while, like, okay, I'm not going to do that because it's hot. Or if you have something that was bad on your taste buds one time and it stuck with you for your life and you're like, I'm never having that again because I know how it made me feel. That's kind of what they do in this rehab with alcohol. So it was pretty intense. And about 3 days into that, I was going in there to save my marriage and do it for my kids and do it for my business. And in like 3 days, it just something hit me. I don't know if it was the book we were going through, the 4 agreements, but it was like, man, if I am not right, nothing will ever be right. I need to do this for me. And that was 3 days into rehab. And it was like, just the angels looked at me and said, hey, get your stuff together. You need to work on you or nothing will be right. And I was always a people pleaser and a partier. And like, if somebody was low on a beer, man, they had another beer. I was always looking out for other people. And it was finally something just hit me of like, you need to look in the mirror and look at yourself and fix yourself and love yourself and do what's right. And then everything else will fall into place.
Wow. Okay. Now it feels like we're getting into the heart of things a little bit because there's different stories. As you're describing, it sounded like everything is amazing. You're the life of the party. Everything is fantastic. And it's not until you said, now here are the versions that my kids give. This is the way that my daughter perceived things. And from her perception, I'm assuming that there was some truth in that, that she didn't know what kind of dad she was going to get, that you weren't always the life of the party, that there was something else there too. And with your wife, I'm proud of you for making some efforts to get in there. And isn't it interesting that even though the motivations are so good when you say, I want to do this for my spouse, I want to do this for my kids, and yet those reasons are not enough. And I've seen this again and again and again. I've heard stories of, oh, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to do this. I don't want to lose this person that I love. I want to do this for my kids. And it's never enough. It's not until we say, I want to do this for me. And even more than that, because I am worth it. Because I love me and I am worthy of love. And it feels like when we get to that point, then things can start to change. And it sounds like you only went through a recovery program one time and it stuck. And that's pretty rare.
Yeah, one time. Now, granted, it's pretty darn aggressive. They do. It's a 10-day deal. 5 days of it is you're kind of like in a hospital room, but there's a big mirror in front of you, a silver sink, and then there would be, we called them bartenders, but they were the nurses, and it was a bar. It was a full-on bar, and people that have kids know what Epicac is. It induces vomiting.
Vomiting.
Well, they'd give you a big 18-ounce glass of that, and she would talk to you for a few minutes and talk about your story and where do you think you got introduced to booze, and about 7 to 9 minutes, man, you do not feel great with Epicac in you. They give you a big 16-ounce glass of warm water, and at this time you're like, I am not feeling great. And then she will mix you in a little shot glass, vodka, rum, they would try to get you up to 18 shots, and you would put the shot in your mouth, swish it around, spit it in the silver bowl until you started vomiting. And then they would give you some rum. They would give you some red wine. They'd give you some Coors Light, swish it around, put it out. You do not feel good after a half hour. And they put you back in your room for about 3 hours to just get it all out of your system. And you just, for an hour and a half, not feeling great. And they come check every 10 minutes. They come check your pulse, and the nurses check on you. And then right when you think that, I would always stare at the clock and be like, man, I'm going to be turning the corner here any minute. And then they come in with the big 16-ounce glass of Epicac again, and then wash it down with the big old 16-ounce of water. And you just keep vomiting for another hour and a half. So after I'll fast forward on the 5th day of doing that, before I walked into the room, I threw up in the trash can because my body knew exactly what was going to happen when I walked into that room. To this day in my household, I do not have silver bowls, always sat in front of us. And I don't have anything blue to drink, like blue Powerade, blue Gatorade, because you had to hydrate an hour before you went in to go see the bartenders. And they had blue Powerade. So all my kids, all my friends, my closest circle know nothing blue comes into this house because it makes my mouth water if it's in the fridge. 7 years later. So my aversion to blue Powerade and booze is still extremely, extremely high.
Wow, I've never heard of a program like that.
Yeah, it
It
was cool.
sounds very effective. Would you recommend that to people? I mean, it sounds awful.
Yes, I've had a couple friends actually go through it. A couple clients go through it. They have recently closed it for the whole purpose. UW did studies. It neurologically changes the transmitters in your brain. I mean, it's like touching a stove. After a while, your body knows, I'm not going to do that because I know what's going to happen. And they closed it about 3 years ago. So there is no there, and there was only one in the United States, and it happened to be here in Seattle.
Hmm.
So I've never done AA. I know a couple of people that have, but this one was, I guess I was lucky enough to get in there before they shut their doors because it absolutely worked for me.
Wow. I'm glad that it worked for you. Um, it sounds like in order to start a program like that, did you know what you were getting into when you?
Yeah, I had a couple people in front of me go, and I was like, "Oof, that does not sound fun." But I was also my business was going great, so I couldn't do like these 30-day ones in Malibu. I really just didn't want to miss that much time. So I was like, "Oh, 10 days, I'll be fine. You can check your emails, and it's not. You could come and go. Once you're there, you're there. But they give you time to do phone calls, check your emails, do that. Other than that, you were in classes and group sessions and therapy, and so really nobody even knew I was gone.
That's
Hence why I chose that one. But I also knew what I was getting into, and they did not come out with great stories. But to this day, neither one of them, the four people I know, have touched booze since then. So it's worked pretty well. I don't know if they closed it because they thought it was inhumane, because it does kind of sound a little inhumane, but the success rate was phenomenal.
wow, that's crazy. Okay. All right. So you talked about business and that you were able to keep your business going during that time. So now let's fast forward to after this program, where
Mm-hmm.
before it was, okay, I've got a martini lunch. Okay, I've got a couple glasses of wine with dinner. Now, how do you handle your business associations when maybe the other person is expecting that martini lunch or that
I
wine with dinner?
I can still go to bars. I can still party with the best of them, if you will. I just don't partake in it. I can still, somebody needs a beer and they went up to the bathroom and I see their beer a quarter full, I'll order them another beer. Um, Being in those environments uh, doesn't bother me. And I think I've silently influenced more people by doing that, because I can just have a soda water or an iced tea. Even at these events I was just at, till, you know, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I can sit and have an iced tea, um, soda water, and be just fine. And I feel like $1 million the next morning. And that is a big driving factor for me, because I've introduced all kinds of different rituals to, I never thought I would journal in my entire life. I enjoy journal. It's one of the first things I do in the morning. I don't look at my phone for the first half hour of waking. I do breath work. I do grounding, and people are like, "Who are you? Some gypsy now? Like, what are you doing?" Um, but I just have this routine, and I work out a lot. Uh, but I still go. I can go out to dinners. I just don't have 3 bottles of wine and then come home and be like, "Hey, I got more people coming, and we're gonna drink some more wine and sit in the hot tub till 2 in the morning, and then get up at 8 in the morning and pretend to go to work that I'm okay." I can still do that. I just feel like $1 million in the morning. And I just still have my routine of don't look at your phone, hydrate, journal, breath work, ground, go to the gym, ice bath, while everybody else is still sleeping and hungover, and I'll make them Bloody Marys the next morning.
It's amazing. Okay. So you found another path to be able to have that feel good, and it doesn't have a downside. There's no hangover for being healthy. There's no hangover for doing your breath work and your journaling and your ice bath and your exercise and all these good things. That's fantastic. Wow. Okay. Well, I would love to hear a little bit about your book, about that's your story, your wild ride to sobriety, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And is there a takeaway for people who are, I mean, because they're not going to be able to follow the same path that you did because that program doesn't exist.
It's interesting you say that, because the book, it's called Wild Ride to Sobriety. And I've had so many people that have read the book or bought the book for somebody and read the book. And it's a super easy read. If you don't have one, I'm going to send it to you. I've had a couple people reach out to me that it really helps them understand previous relationships, um, or their understanding of their parents and alcohol and where did it start. I always go, I got a really good life coach that always takes me back, and the domestication that we all have something in our life, whatever it is. Um, Booze, drugs, pornography. Everybody has something in their past. And my gal, Angie, really helps me forgive your younger self, believe in your current self, and create your future self. And a lot of people that read the book understand, or that just like resonates them of like, I need to forgive that person that wronged me because that was their upbringing. That was, they don't know any different. So I get a lot of those of that is not booze related. It was, and some of it, the tail end of it, I just talked about fitness and journaling. I get a lot of people question me, like, hey, tell me about journaling now for you. How did it start? What did it look like? And I'd be like, it started with one sentence at first. And what do you write about? I'd be like, I write about a lot about gratitude. I write a lot about, manifesting things that I want, my goals. So there's, a lot of that wasn't booze related for a lot of people. Some people, if you read the book, it'll make you laugh at some things. It'll pull your heartstrings a little bit when you read the kids. I had the kids write letters and they're in the book. That tugs at a lot of people for sure. And then just people can relate to the stories of like, hey, I was 85 pounds overweight. People that are in my circle of like, man, if that guy can do it, anybody can do it. Because I've seen him in his crazy days and they were wild. And there were signs, at these functions, I would be, I was chuckling with some of these guys that, because I've been in this industry, I've been in for 22 years, that they were telling stories like, I remember you in Vegas, we were at this big convention and we like all had to be suited up in like a half hour and you're still in the hot tub ordering buckets of beers. And we're like, we got to go get ready. I'm like, we'll be fine. It takes 10 minutes to get ready. Have another beer. So I had some signs pointing at me for sure. People would be like, hey, bro, you can't be going into those meetings like that buzzed up. Like, but I was fine. Like I was the life of the party. So I know, but we're just personally worried about you. So I had all these signs and I completely dismissed the ones in my household. But I've definitely turned the corner. So the wild ride to sobriety, a lot about booze, but a lot about how can you, whatever your vice is, whether it's cookies, like sugar is my big thing. Well, you give up booze, you still crave a lot of sugar. And I never was a dessert guy, but man, I love my cookies. So this year I'm like very mindful of like, do I really need to go to Dairy Queen after this and go get a Blizzard? Probably not. Right. So it's having the discipline and being so mindful. And I have these little quotes everywhere on my mirrors and my daughter's room that's like, I am worthy, I am beautiful, I am smart. I'm a big believer in affirmations, and a lot of people get that out of the book as well, of constantly reminding yourself, because we live in such a negative society and the news is never on in my house because, I was reading something that 3 minutes of the news affects 27% of your day negatively, which is like insane.
Wow, that's a lot.
So the more you can just have positive affirmations around yourself.
That's beautiful. So this book is for anyone who's going through basically a life experience and maybe needs to make a few changes. Let's do some tweaking and see
Yeah.
if it'll fit for me.
And it's such an easy read. Somebody will get something, it'll make an impact on you one way or another, whether it's health, fitness, mindfulness, forgiveness. I had to forgive myself for how horribly of a husband I was at the time, how horrible of a father I was at the time, how horrible of a friend and rude and vulgar and just, you know, all the glamorous stuff, right? Everything's different behind closed doors. Like it looked like, oh my gosh, you're successful and you sold your business and you're the life of the party and you have all these friends and these people. Well, my circle today, not drinking, is so small because all I really care about now is really intimate relationships. I used to have this ginormous circle. Like I said, I could, in 10 minutes, I could have 26 people at the house having a barbecue. And my ex-wife would be like, okay, here we go again. She was a trooper through all that. And even though all these red flags are popping up, I just kind of dismissed them and ignored them. But I'm very mindful of that today for sure.
Fascinating. So there's kind of what is the appearance of success, the appearance of connections, the appearance of what sounds like a really good life. And then on the other hand, what's really fulfilling and what's really genuine, authentic, great life. And that goes into your make it great, your MIG.
Hmm.
I love the whole idea of it is let's make it great. Let's make life great. Let's enjoy. I believe life is meant to be joyful. And it sounds like you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I love that you use the word joyful. And if the definition of joyful is continued happiness over and over and over. And I think everybody in the world is really looking for joy. And it's there. We just let it get so, like, my relationship with my kids are like it's never been. My relationship with my ex is taken a lot of work, but it's phenomenal. We could go sit and have coffee. We could go have dinner. There's been a lot of forgiveness and, not carry the past with you. Like, we are not here a very long time. So you better make the best of it and be joyful every moment you possibly can. And I love that term. We're all just searching to be joyful, which is joyful is really continued happiness over and over and over. So what can you do to create that in your environment?
And isn't that wonderful? Talking about being joyful and what we can do over and over again. And yet, at the beginning with your story, it sounded like that's what you were kind of searching for and doing. I am drinking, I'm having people over, I'm the life of the party, I'm looking for, but maybe the word isn't joy. Maybe there's another word that we could fit in there where it is an attractive counterfeit for true joy.
I like that. And in my book, one of my friends writes in there of like they don't drink today, but it's having the glass of wine, sitting on the patio, watching the seductiveness of having that glass of wine. But what's the seductiveness of? Is it really the wine, or like eliminate the wine and watch the sunset with your gal? And like, do you need do you need the alcohol for that? Um, which you don't. But it's just so acceptable in our society these days.
Very much so. Acceptable and expected in many circumstances. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, one more thought, and that is as I was checking out your website and you had the About Us. It sounds like this is a family thing. I saw what looked like kids on there. Are those your kids?
It is. Yep. Yep. I got a 14-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 29-year-old, and I just became a grandfather. So, yeah, quite
Congratulations.
been a spectacular last few months for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And real joy, right? Not the false joy of like I thought I had this joy for me was like houses and cars, and I have all these people that when you're not the life of the party and fun and everything, you'll find out real quick who your real friends are.
Ooh.
Real quick.
Wow. So the 26 people that you could get at a heartbeat were there for the booze, probably more than for anything else.
Yeah, what shenanigans is Ian going to get into? It's always a barbecue. There's always a place to go. There's always a place to eat and drink and be merry and get served upon, really.
Hmm.
And it's just I think I'm going to write another book, and it's going to be called The Core Four, of like how important your core people are in your life. And two of those people in my four were with me in my shenanigans of drinking days, and they've seen the worst of the worst of me, and now they are helping me, supporting me, guiding me, and helping me be the best version of myself. And those are the people that you want in your life.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Wow, this has been fascinating. Do you have anything else you want to make sure that we cover, Ian, before we close?
I don't. Check out the book, Wild Ride to Sobriety. You'll pick up something, even if you're not a boozer. It's a pretty entertaining, fun, fun journey. And the whole reason I wrote the book is to make an impact on somebody to be a better father, better husband, better wife, better son, better business owner, just to be better. And it's happening. Every time I kind of get in a funk and be like, man, I'm not sure if it's really working. The good Lord blesses me. Somebody will text me or DM me, be like, I read your book. It made such an impact on me and my family. It's like, that's exactly what it was meant to do.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for becoming, and thank you for sharing and paying it forward. You didn't just do this journey and say, wow, that was awesome for me. You did this and then said, wow, this is something that might be awesome for somebody else too. And I love it when people pay it forward and make a difference. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks for doing what you do and getting the message out of, you know, just being better every day, right? How do we be joyous more and more every day and appreciate the smallest things in the world? Um, it's very, very important.
Love it. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Mae West. She said, "You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough." Today, I invite our listeners to make your life great. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.